Hello and welcome to another edition of the Hughes at 10. It is 10 o'clock. It is Sunday, the 22nd of November 2020. So we're, oh my God, 57 years since this huge event happened that changed the world. I'm talking obviously about the first episode of Doctor Who. No, I'm joking. I'm talking about the assassination of John F. Kennedy, who was the last American president to be assassinated. There's been four of them, hasn't there? There's been Lincoln, McKinley, Garfield, and not the cat, and not the guy from Spider-Man, different guy, and Kennedy. Yeah, it's amazing no one had a pop at Trump, to be honest with you. But and I would like to talk a little bit about Trump this weekend. It's funny because part of me is very much looking forward to never having to see or think about or consider that horrible, wretched, disgusting slug of a man ever again. But until he leaves office, whenever that might be, hopefully he's got to concede at some point. But even if he doesn't, on January the 20th next year, he becomes just an ordinary citizen squatting in the White House. And so if the Secret Service want to get rid of him, they can do with force if necessary. But this weekend we had the G20 summit, which was a bit unusual. Paul's just saying he's going to be watching Match of the Day. You watch who's playing who's on Match of the Day today? I'm not even up to speed. If you leave me to watch Manchester United, I might not be too happy about that. But yeah, we had the G20 summit, and normally they meet somewhere and it's all drinks and receptions and things. But this year, obviously, it was all held over Zoom because of COVID-19. And what's really interesting is just the amount of disrespect that the world leaders gave to Trump, because they know he's a lame duck. They know he's on his way out. They know he's circling the drain. And they don't need to pretend that they don't fucking hate him anymore. So, that's cool. So basically, the head of the summit, which for some reason was King Salman of Saudi Arabia, that lovely man who had a journalist brutally murdered just a year ago or so. He actually said, in a time that the world needed leadership, there was none, which was obviously a massive dig at Donald Trump. And yeah, the world did need leadership. And what did we get instead? We got some mad orange narcissist coming on the telly, telling us how great he's doing, even though his country was raking up deaths at the time in the tens of thousands. Now it's in the hundreds of thousands, and by the time he leaves office, if he doesn't sort this shit out, because numbers are going up, over 1 million people were infected with COVID in America. 1 million this week. 1 million people infected. 1% of those people die. That's a fuckload of people. That's like 10,000 people, I think. I'm doing maths in my head there. Yeah, there's 10,000 people. It's eye-watering. And yeah, if he doesn't, it's going to be 300, 400,000 dead Americans by the time he leaves office, by the looks of things. One of the annoying things, we're talking about like Trump, and Alex Green is saying I'm following Trump for the hell of it, and really believes he has won, and cannot understand why Biden is forming a cabinet. He probably does think that he won. I mean, he is an idiot. He is in his own little fantasy world. He's very good at. He's a good con man. He's good at manipulating people. The two types of con men, isn't there? There's the white hat hackers and the black hat hackers. And the white hats are the ones who either break in for good reasons, or they'll con someone who deserves to be conned. So in Ocean's 11, it'll be some evil owner of a casino or something. You're like, yeah, he definitely deserves to be conned. Con him, you con artists. Whereas the sort of dark side of the whole con artistry lark is going after people and using their better nature against them. So essentially setting up a charity for a child who's got leukemia when there is no child with leukemia and you're just going to pocket the money yourself. That would be an example of a con where you have used people's best intentions against them. And I don't know where Trump falls on that spectrum. I think he very much gives the people who are awful an excuse to be awful, and he's doing absolutely nothing to help them. He's done nothing to help you if you live in a farm in Mississippi. He's done less than zero to help you. He's given a tax break to all of his rich mates, but he has discredited America's name around the world. He has fundamentally discredited American democracy around the world, and that's going to take a long time to rebuild. And yeah, he's basically given lots and lots of people, and not a, I want to say a preventable disease. It's not that straightforward. I would say avoidable, a disease in which only a handful of people have died in other countries, yet 250,000 have died in America. I know America's got a big population, but still, why has it got so many more deaths than India, so many more deaths than China, which are both bigger countries, so many more deaths than Japan or even Russia, which aren't as big as America in terms of population, but are getting there. We've got, hi Adam, hello. I think it's a con piece. Betty Biscuit, I'm looking forward to not having my news feed dominated by tales of Trump's latest vile act. Yeah, I think that's a really good point that you make there, Betty. And thank you again. Thank you, Betty's one of my patrons. I really thank you a lot for that. She also brought to my attention that my Patreon account was a thing that I should possibly use at some point. Thank you. But yeah, you make a good point. I'm very much looking forward to not caring about the news. And I said this, I think I said this either in the election broadcast or at the beginning when I started doing these. 10 years ago, I couldn't tell you the names of anyone in David Cameron's cabinet. I just about knew the name Nick Clegg because he was the deputy prime minister. And that was about it. I didn't know anyone because I didn't need to. Politics didn't dominate my life. It wasn't doing something that would change my life in any way. I was just getting on with my life like most people want to do and letting politics sort of take care of itself. There were things that I thought were shit that the government were doing, like austerity. And yeah, I guess if we had continued to this year and it was still just as bad, I guess that might have made me want to go out on the streets, but not to the extent that Brexit did. I want to go back to those days when it just didn't dominate the political, the news media so much. And I used to moan about the fact that why are we reading about these celebrities? There was a great article I read years ago, which is called something like, this is before Amy Winehouse died. It was called, Why Do I Know the Name of Amy Winehouse's Boyfriend? Why do I know that? And there's this article about people like me who don't read the gossip columns and don't really care about celebrities. And it was just like, but this stuff is just shoved down your throat. And they made a very good point. You don't pick up a celebrity magazine and find out about the latest breakthroughs at CERN in Switzerland, because it's not just shoehorned in there. But if you pick up a science magazine, it'll start talking about celebrities for some reason and interview someone who knows nothing about science. And we've seen this with Horizon on BBC Two, which dedicated a good few episodes to Alan from QI, Jonathan Creek, basically asking scientists questions like he was a small child who wasn't very good in school, to put it that way. And it was embarrassing. It was like, hang on, why would you watch Horizon if you weren't interested in science to some degree? Why is it got to be presented in this way of like, hello kids, are you ready for some science? But yeah, so I'd moan about the fact that on the front pages of the on the front pages of the newspapers, you'd see things like, oh, some celebrity in Big Brother or some footballer cheated on their partner or something like that. And I was like, oh, whatever. But now I miss that. I know. Now I'm like, can we go back to the meaningless prattle and tittle-tattle and gossip about some people I couldn't give two shits about, rather than it being literally half of the Great Barrier Reef dead, Trump says global warming is a hoax invented by the Chinese. He says that the Paris Climate Change Agreement is not going to solve any environmental problems. All it's going to do is destroy America's economy. That's what he said this weekend. Yeah. So like California, it's been on fire. The Brazilian rainforests on fire. Australia at the beginning of this year on fire. But, you know, whatever. The American economy, yeah. Oh, the problems it'll face if it does something about climate change, which to me is massively counterintuitive, because I don't understand how any country can look at energy self-sufficiency and go, oh yeah, that's going to be awful. Imagine generating all your own electricity. That would be awful. Imagine not being dependent on Qatar for our gas. Oh, I don't know how I could live like that. Imagine not being dependent on countries like Libya for our oil and Angola for our oil. Imagine. So yeah, bring back James Burke, says John Barleycorn. Gaz is saying all these Sharons and Gammons will be moaning again when they can't get their awful package holiday to Spain. Well, you know, I mean, I think they'll still be able to get a package holiday. It's just going to cost them more. The BBC must have wanted to reduce the perceived elitism of its programs. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a problem for the BBC, because the BBC is very much part of the establishment, and the establishment is posh people who went to posh schools talking posh and making each other laugh. You look at all the panel shows that we get on TV, most of them are just very, very, very smug. And then look at the quiz shows we get. I just connect with Victoria Khan. I can't even watch it. It's just the smugness. It like comes out the TV. Eggheads. Oh my God. That show, they ask about 6 questions in the entire show because they just have to like pad everything out, because I don't know, the question wranglers can't be asked coming up with questions for that week's episode. It was like, let's discuss the why we came to the answer of, you know, what's the capital of France? Oh, well, we were thinking it begins with a P. I don't care, just answer the bloody question. But it's all very smug. And then the University Challenge, which is something that I love the show because the questions are really hard, and I like watching stuff where you don't get asked the daft questions that they ask in the beginning of the round in Weakest Link or Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, where it is literally, what day is Christmas Day? And it's like, December the 25th? Correct! You win £1,000. But yeah, the difficult questions, but it really does piss me off that obviously they've only got so much time to go to each university. There's over 120 universities in the United Kingdom. I think it's well over that, actually. And yet, every single bloody week, there's a team from Oxford or Cambridge on the show. What? Hang on. So Manchester University, which has a student population of 40,000 students since it merged with UMIST a few years ago, that gets one team of 4. The teams from Oxford, there was one on the other week. I looked it up. The college had 600 pupils in it, 600 students, and they get a team of 4. And the college next door gets a team of 4. There's about 100 bloody colleges in Oxford and Cambridge, and they each get a team to go to. I'm like, well, how is that even fair? And as we know, Oxford and Cambridge, over a third of their intake from the posh schools, the private schools. And so it's like this self-fulfilling bloody prophecy, isn't it? You know, we're gonna make them less elite. So, well, why don't you get people on who aren't elite? Okay, well, we'll get people on who aren't elite then, and they get someone on, and it is someone who's elite. It's someone who went to a private school, but I don't know, maybe they got into drugs or something, and they're like, look, they're just like you and me. I'm like, no, they're not. 3, 2, 1. Eggheads, even lol. I can't. Eggheads it's just awful, and the people are just it's just awful. We're going about it too much. I think I'm alienating our American colleagues. College Bowl in America, there's a TV show called College Bowl where all the different universities play against each other. And I'm pretty sure, although I might be wrong, I don't think Yale and Harvard get to field 17 teams each, whereas all the other universities only get to give 1. Anyway, QI with Stephen Fry, the criminal. Okay. Plum Duff said, we couldn't feed ourselves in World War II and had rationing. I've got a feeling rationing will be back, strong and stable, my arse. Yeah, Plum Duff, I can't. I don't want to think that it might get to that point, but I do think shortages are very much a reality of going to be our next year in the UK, deal or no deal. Sugar Free turned down a place at Cambridge in 2000. I got in as a mature student. Sugar Free, why did you do that? I would have taken it. I'll take your place, and then I can get a proper job doing exactly this, but getting paid for it. Get to the right school, did I? Without the BBC, how many people would have heard of Farage? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we did a whole video, me and Paul Somerville from Newcastle. We did a whole video because they did a question time from like South Shields, and it was embarrassing. It was really embarrassing. The audience was so stacked against Brexit. I think we counted there were 13 questions asked, and 12 of them were from Brexiteers. And it was like, I want my Brexit, give me my Brexit, man. Although people in Gateshead don't talk like that, but South Shields, sorry. But it was hideous. And one of the things I'll talk about question time for a moment. I was talking the other day about my partner Catherine, who is deaf, and some of the obstacles that we've faced. And I was talking about going to the cinema and stuff. I mean, these things don't seem like such a big deal, but when you love going to the cinema, it becomes a bit of a kind of like, I can't believe they don't have more subtitle showings. But I'll give you another example. So I keep saying QI. Question time was in Liverpool last year. I think it was last year. And we applied to be in the audience, me and my partner. And she got on. She got accepted. And they sent an email to her saying that she had been given a place and that she had to call up in order to talk to the producer and make sure they know what's happening. So we wrote back to them saying, can't call you because Catherine's deaf. And I was at my parents in Liverpool at the time, and Catherine was at her parents in Liverpool. So we'd gone over for a week to visit. And we sent an email and we got nothing back. So I called up the production office and said, hi, I'm calling on behalf of blah, 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 blah. And can I just get the details of when she's got to be there and everything? And they said, oh, no, we can't talk to you because we've got to talk to her direct. I'm like, well, she's deaf and I'm not with her. So, well, don't worry. If you can go and meet up with her and then we can talk. I'm like, okay. So I've done this before. Put my phone on speakerphone and repeat what someone says. Catherine can read my lips. Ta-da! You're sorted. Unfortunately, by the time we met up, which was a couple of hours later, called them up and they went, oh no, we're giving a place away. Now, if Catherine hadn't been deaf, she would have gotten the show. Well, in the audience. I don't mean she was going to be a guest. But because she's deaf, the BBC went, nah, sorry, we're giving it to someone else who's not deaf. So, yeah, there you go. That's the BBC for you. Chris Kopic saying, stop watching Question Time ages ago, can't bear it. It's just awful, isn't it? It's not balanced. And the fact that they allow lies to be told, I think that's what bothers me the most. How can you have a politics show on the national broadcaster in which lies are tolerated? As soon as someone tells a lie, there should be someone there in real time fact checking and saying, not having that. The thing is, with Question Time as well, it's not live. They can't do it live because if they do it live, someone in the audience might, I don't know, scream out an obscenity or get naked or whatever. So it's actually broadcast an hour or so after, and I'll cut out anything that might be libelous or whatever. So they can fact check what people say, and they never do. And if you go on if you type in Question Time into Google, it has presenters. It's got like David Dimbleby. It's got loads of episodes in brackets. Then it's got Fiona Bruce, loads of episodes in brackets because they're the presenters. And then it's got Nigel Farage because he's been on it the most of all politicians, all British politicians. Maggie's saying the discrimination in small things like the way the BBC treated your partner is appalling. Yeah, I know, but the thing is, I understand that people don't get it because then never been put in that situation, and they've never been given the training that they need to be able to see this stuff. It's like you don't know you're living in a cave till you leave the cave type thing. So when you hear about anti-bullying or anti-racism or anti-disability awareness, where you go on a course where you are basically told these things are discriminatory, and people say, "Oh, I don't need to do that. I'm not a racist. I've got black friends. I'm not a racist." And then you go, "Well, can you do this course then?" "No, I don't need to do that." No, I think you do, because if you think you don't need to do the course, you definitely need to do the course. But it just opens your eyes up to situations like this, in which you're sending an email to someone saying, "Hey, can you phone me?" And it's very difficult to phone someone if you're deaf. If you want to go through your minicom, I've got a little minicom over there. I could show you it, but it's plugged in, which is this ancient machine from like the 1970s. And the way the minicom works is you call up a number through the minicom, and there's a person listening in on your phone call and typing out everything that the person at the other end says for you to read. I didn't even realize. I thought it was automated, like Google just comes up with words as you speak, but it's not. It's actually a person having to write all this stuff down. And to use the minicom service costs a lot of money. It's like 50p a minute or £1 a minute or something. So you think about this: you're calling up Halifax, and they're keeping you on hold for 45 minutes. You've got a minicom operator sitting there for 45 minutes listening to the same awful hold music that you're listening to. You're having to pay for that. And you can't email your bank. You can't phone your bank's branch. And even if you go into a branch these days, they tell you to use the bloody phone. Again, it's just things that you don't think about until someone points it out, and you're like, hang on, that's a bit shit, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Pete Robinson is saying Farage is a politician. Yes, he's a career politician. Although he pretends he's not. Like he pretended he wasn't a city banker or a millionaire or went to public school or has 2 Irish children and 2 German children, I think, who all have EU passports. Fucker. Charlie Nasser says, to ensure a balance, Farage should have got more episodes of Have I Got News for You. Yeah, I don't know, because that obviously helped Boris Johnson. If you watch the episode, I think I was talking about this the other day. I keep forgetting what I've actually chatted about on these things. I should write it down. But yeah, I can't bear to watch them back, because it's, you know, when you watch yourself and you're like, oh God, do I really sound like that? Oh, don't say that. Oh God, he said the wrong thing there, didn't he? Idiot. Go back and sort out your mic. But yeah, it didn't do any harm to Johnson's career. But if you go back and watch the episode when he was there, Ian Hislop just laid into him something rotten about that phone call he made, or someone called him and said, I want to know where this journalist lives so I can beat the shit out of him. And he went, okay, I'll tell you. And that's what he was nailing to the wall over. And that's back in like 1998 or something. Alex Morgan says, my friend is deaf and never understood why the rebroadcast sign language at 2 a.m. Yes, Alex, that's another one. Sign language at 2 a.m. What? And this is what happens at the cinema. So Catherine works 9 to 5. She's got a really good job, and all of the subtitle showings are on Thursday afternoons at like 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's like, what? Do deaf people not have jobs? It's like crazy. Darian saying, if you're deaf, open a credit union account. My credit union allows me to do banking via email. Okay, we'll have a look into that. Cheers, Darian. Sorry. Sugar Free says, I don't know what grifter meant until the last couple of weeks. Lol. When I was growing up, a grifter was a bike, a rally grifter. I don't think I ever had one, but I think one of my friends did. Tom Monk saying, Farage, Bojo, and Trump have much in common. Yes, they do. Well, look, I'll add Corbyn to that as well. And I know I get loads of shit for this, and I see sometimes, as soon as I say the word Corbyn, I just see that my membership or my subscribers or my followers just go off a cliff. But I honestly think that the way that his supporters behave and the way they defend him no matter what, and the way they've got a bloody excuse for absolutely everything is very much like the supporters of Trump or the supporters of Boris Johnson or the supporters of Priti Patel. This thing of like, oh, the Priti Patel memes that were going around this weekend where people were just taking a Tory minister or Tory MP's tweet and changing the word Priti Patel to a serial killer and saying, oh, yeah, lovely person, always very polite to me, always lovely. And it's kind of this thing like there's always a bloody excuse. And you know what? And I think anyone watching this knows how I feel about demagogues, how I feel about personality cults. And I'm not afraid to say unpopular things and think, oh no, I better not say that because I'll lose all my subscribers. If someone wants to set me right, fine, we'll have that discussion. I'm happy to have that discussion. But the way these people are put on a goddamn pedestal and nothing they do is wrong. And something that I said today on Twitter, I stand by, which is this: Jeremy Corbyn, the greatest socialist who ever lived, the guy, the only man to be able to, the only person to be able to save Labour by losing 2 general elections, but that's another point. Oh, and 3 local elections and an EU election and a referendum. Welcome to Loserville, population U, Jeremy Corbyn. But yeah, he's just awful. But my point was that, hang on, when it came to the activation of Article 50, with no amendments, no provisos, nothing there to safeguard the rights of British citizens living in the EU or EU citizens living in the UK, he put a 3-line whip to vote with the Conservatives. And it wasn't just about the rights of EU citizens living here and British people's rights as well. It was also the fact that this would give, and we knew it would, power to the Tories to rewrite 40 years of laws. Because if they refer to the EU in the law, those laws could be rewritten without a parliamentary vote, with a statutory instrument. And Corbyn voted, well, he told his MPs, 3-line whip. Now, a 3-line whip, basically, if there's a vote, 1-line whip is if you're there, vote. If it's 2-line whip, please get your arse to London and vote. If it's a 3-line whip, it's like, get your fucking arse to London, vote on this, or we will destroy you, motherfucker. You will have the whip withdrawn, maybe. You'll have parliamentary privileges withdrawn. You won't be able to get a cold pint of beer in the pubs in Westminster anymore because we're going to take them away. We're going to put them in the microwave and make them slightly warm. Or whatever. The whips will have a little black book of all the naughty things that you've been up to, and they'll leak it to the press. So you better bloody turn up for the 3-line whip. Serious business. And he put a 3-line whip to vote with Jacob Rees-Mogg and Mark Francois and Boris Johnson and Priti Patel and all those motherfuckers that I hate. 3-line whip, vote with them. And then a couple of years later, another vote came up, which I feel was quite important. And it was the vote to renew Trident. You would imagine a man of peace, a man who had given his life on the cross with nails in his hands to achieve peace in the Middle East by being on the side of one side, not the other. You'd think that he would be massively against Trident. And he says that he is. The words coming out of his face say, yes, Trident's bad. It's a massive waste of money. We're never going to use it. What we're best doing is just pretending that we've got one because we're not going to use it anyway. And it'll cost us a lot less money than the £108 billion that Trident's going to cost to renew. Does he do a 3-line whip to vote against the Tories? Does he fuck? Free vote. No whip at all. Not a 1-line whip, 2-line whip, 3-line whip. Nope. He gives a free vote to his MPs on Trident. This is the man of the people, the man of peace, the man of fucking iron, krypton, whatever, steel. And so I'm sorry, but the evidence is just stacked against him. However, you tell his supporters that, and they go apeshit at you. They start insulting you. They tell you that you're deluded, that you're crazy, that you're talking bollocks. That even though you've nailed them to the wall, these are facts. These are facts recorded in Hansard. There's no two ways about it. It's been recorded. It actually happened. No, it didn't happen. No, fake news. Fake news. And you're like, oh my God, there's a wafer. There's like a cigarette paper between Corbyn fans and Trump fans. They just don't accept reality. Your bloke's a bit shit. No, he's amazing. He's the most amazing man who ever lived. Well, what's he done? What has he actually done that's good or helped anyone? Don't know. He said some things. Great. Can you tell me one of the great speeches, one of the really inspiring speeches he made? Go on, just quote from it, if you would. So Trump, it'll be man, woman, camera. Redundant Squash says, I think Corbyn's hope was that the worst possible Brexit would happen, the Conservatives would be blamed, and he would run in and mould the country in his vision. I've heard that, and yeah, I could give some credence to that idea, but the Tories, this is the thing you've got to understand about the Tories, right? They're like the T-1000, right? They will not stop ever until you are dead. And if you freeze them and then shoot them with a shotgun, right, they'll break into a million little pieces, right? And then all the little pieces will start coming together again. And it all gloop up into one big Conservative party with the face of Margaret Thatcher. Because that's the Conservatives. That's what they do. That's what they are. They are an election-winning machine. And you can't beat them by the rules of cricket. Because they're not playing cricket, you idiots. They're playing, I don't know, nuclear war. It's just like that thing about... They turn up to a pillow fight with an AK-47. And they're like, oh my God, we can catch them out on this. They'll look really bad. Look how bad they should look now. 50,000 people have died in this country from COVID. 70,000 people have died extra this year. Excess mortality, 70,000 people. Every disaster in British history. Just stick them together, add them together. They don't come to that kind of number. That is just madness. It's off the charts. It's more people than were killed in the Blitz. Way more people than were killed in the Blitz. And yet, we've got this situation now where the fucking Tories are still 40% in the polls. Still. So yeah, you're not going to beat them by making them look bad or themselves making themselves look bad, because T-1000, man. T-1000. Darian says, Christopher Hitchens' greatest quote about a politician: if you drained him of all the shit, you could bury him in a matchbox. Yes. It wasn't a politician, though, was it? It was, oh God, it was like Billy Graham. It was one of those evangelical preachers. He said he gave him an enema, you could bury him in a matchbox. I was actually thinking that quote the other day about Trump. But yeah, I miss Hitch. Even though, as I said the other day, I didn't agree with him on everything. He just had a style to him that I just miss. Pete's saying, like, my Brexiteer father who can't give me one good reason for Brexit. Thank heaven for small mercies, because although my mum is from a working class background, she grew up in Bootle, all of her family are very Labour, very pro-EU. My dad's family are quite middle class. They're from Orrell Park, which is very close to where my mum grew up, but a lot posher for some reason. And it's not now. Don't at me. But yeah, he's been a lifelong Conservative, but in 2016, he was diagnosed with dementia, which is one of the reasons why I'm in the UK and not in Panama at the moment on my island. But if he hadn't got ill, we would be having the most blazing rows about Brexit the world has ever seen. We like to row at the best of times. We like to row at the worst of times. But oh my God, over Brexit, it would have just been fireworks every time I went over to Liverpool to visit. So yeah, small mercies, I guess. But having said that, I'll trade everything to have my old dad back. It's horrible dementia, because you basically lose someone and then you lose them again when they die, and that's horrible. That the first time that your dad looks at you and you know he's got no idea who you are. It's hard. It's really, really hard. And eventually you start having to think, it's just someone who looks like my dad. and just try and make him as comfortable as possible. Thankfully, he's been quite cheerful over the whole ordeal. I guess I think it's been tougher on my family more than it's been on him. And he's not angry. He's not an angry person with vascular dementia or Alzheimer's. He's quite placid. He's quite sort of laid back. But yeah, so yeah, that's sort of, you're trying to look at something and go, is there anything good that you can take from this? And like, okay, well, at least we're not arguing about bloody Brexit. But yeah, as far as the Brexit debates that go on still with my people in my family, some of my old friends who voted for it, there's no getting through to them. And I don't think that I think that no matter how bad it gets next year, it's got to take something massive for them to change their minds, because what they're going to do, and we know they're going to do this, it's as obvious as Trump not conceding. It's like, oh, well, I didn't think he wouldn't concede. Oh my God, he really shocked me there. But what's going to happen is they're going to blame us. They're going to blame Remainers, and they're going to blame the EU. Oh, we could have had a great Brexit, but the EU, they were mean to us and they bullied us. And I'm like, oh my God, if you are in a position where you are being bullied, right, that essentially means that someone is in a superior position to you. And in order for them to be able to bully you, I don't think there's many cases of someone who, someone who's lower down the pecking order bullying someone who's their boss. It's usually the other way around, isn't it? So it just gives paid to the idea that, like, oh, they need us more than we need them. And you're like, well, what? How are they bullying us then? How? That just doesn't work. But talking of bullying, it was anti-bullying week last week, and Priti Patel, we found out this weekend that not only did the guy who did the report, he left this week, not only as one of the guys who was being bullied suing for constructive dismissal, we found out that the document, the dossier about Priti Patel had been sitting on Boris Johnson's desk for 7 months. 7 months. While he did nothing about it. And they blocked the guy who was compiling the report, Sir Alex Allen. They blocked him from talking to certain people who were witnesses and could have testified or spoken about it. How mad is that? Well, what's going on in the world where you could just allow someone to do that after them lying to the Queen, misleading Parliament, 50,000, 70,000 COVID deaths, Barnard Castle, the A-level fiasco? Oh my God, is there nothing these people can do where someone says, oh, it's a bit much now. It's a bit much. You're taking it too far. Yeah, it used to be funny, but you're just horrible. You're just all horrible people. I don't want to vote for you anymore. What do they have to do? It's like, honestly, I think people would see Priti Patel. You'd see her sitting there in a cafe eating a baby, and you'd be like, "You're eating a baby," and she'd be like, "Yeah, yeah. Can I take a photo of this and put it on Instagram?" Yeah, sure. Why not? She can do a little smirk, can't she? Baby eating smirk, and put it on Instagram. It wouldn't even register on the polls. It'll be like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, she looks. It's all right. I'm sure the baby deserved it. I'm sure the baby asked to be eaten. Actually, that's babies for you, isn't it? But yeah, this is how far we've fallen. And we saw the same with Trump. Trump said, I can shoot someone dead on Fifth Avenue and I won't lose any votes. And he was right. In this election, he's actually gained votes. He didn't gain as many votes as Joe Biden, but he did gain votes after killing 250,000 Americans through his incompetence. Brilliant. Graham Beale saying they will blame our country's debt on COVID, the greatest cover-up ever. Yes, they will. Number 10 is a rat nest. Gaz is saying I've lived out my own dad. Sorry to hear that, Gaz. Pete Robbins is he giving her one? Priti Patel. That's a gruesome twosome I don't want to think about. Paul Mason, blaming Remainers in the EU is already well underway. Yeah, we know. Yeah, the Express headline 2 weeks ago, if Biden wins, the UK will suffer badly and it will be entirely because of Remainers. Was that in the Express? I thought that was in the Telegraph. or the Tory graft, as I like to call it these days. John B. Craddock. I learned a great deal from Dad about his childhood when Alzheimer's took hold, prompted with pages I've downloaded from the internet to jog his memory. Tales of old Shanghai in the 20s and 30s. Yeah, John, that's one of my biggest regrets. Obviously, in my day job, I'm a filmmaker and I make videos and stuff. And I always thought at some point I would sit down with my dad and get him to tell me some of his hilarious anecdotes about his life. He's a really interesting guy. He was in the RAF. He was a race driver in Aintree race course. So in the 50s and 60s, or the late 50s, early 60s, the British Grand Prix alternated between Aintree and Liverpool, where they hold the Grand National. There's a circuit inside the horse racing course, and Silverstone. So it alternated between Silverstone and Aintree for a few years, and that's where I think the first British person to win the Formula One championship was a guy called Mike Hunt. I think he did it in 1958. Please Google at me if you like, just find out the facts. But I think that he won enough points to win the championship that year at the Aintree race. And my dad was there. And my dad's still the honorary president of Aintree Circuit Club, which is really cool. Obviously, he's not functioning as a president anymore, but yeah, he was the kind of guy who would go and learn to fly just because he wanted to learn to fly. He was a mechanic. He was a car mechanic. He loads of motorbikes and cars growing up that he would buy as broken old shells and fix them up on the front path and stuff. And my love of adventure and visiting these countries around the world, a lot of that comes from my dad. And as I talk about in my book, when I was young, we used to go on these camping holidays in a clamped out old camper van all around Europe, and travel to France and Spain and Andorra and Liechtenstein and Germany. And yeah, it was a very formative experience for me. I used to love the Michelin maps. I used to love sitting in the front and just getting the map out and going, you need to go this way, you need to go that way, and sussing out what things were. Gaz Riley saying Mike Hunt, lol. Mike Hawthorne, sorry. This is why I should never go out live. Mike Hawthorne. Damn. I'm never going to live this down now. Oh, no, Mike Hawthorne. Sorry, I'm just so wrong. Do you know what? By me saying that, I'm probably not going to be able to get the advertising on my video now once it goes on catch up. Sorry, I'm not even drinking tonight. I'm on the tea. Okay, back to serious business. Come on, let's we got 15 minutes left. Donald Cowie says COVID-19 is Tory safety net that's helping keep people from protesting. Yeah, I think that's the case. I think next year we really need to have our first big rejoin the EU march, and that's people say, "Oh, you try to stop democracy?" Like, no, we've left. We want to rejoin. Like people wanted to leave even though they lost the 1975 referendum about the EU, or the EEC as it was then. Yeah. Mike Hawthorne was the first British. Sorry, Colin. What am I saying, Mike Hawthorne? When people tell you who they are, best believe them. Yes, that's a good point, Tom. Plum says he'll be very proud of you, Graham. Well, he wasn't for a long time, but I think he really enjoyed the Odyssey expedition and helping me out with that, which he did. He went down to London a load of times to get visas and things. Visas for countries that you couldn't get the visa for in a neighbouring country. You had to get the visa for the country in London, which made the travelling to every country in the world isn't just a sort of like a long slog. It's also a bureaucratic nightmare just because of all the different regulations around the world. Ernie Byrne says, we are Remainers, we remain sane. Yeah, true. Only just. Sugar Free saying they'll lose that safety net when the vaccine comes. That's true. Guys are saying your dad does sound awesome. Yeah, but don't get me wrong, he was an absolute pain in the arse at times. So and a massive Tory. So yeah, you got to take the rough with the smooth, I guess. John saying he's blessed with an awesome son. Yeah, the other one, not me. No, I'm joking. Charlie Nelson, internal market bill challenged in Northern Ireland High Court. Yes. the Internal Market Bill, which is breaking international law and making us look like absolute chumps on the world stage and making us look like we're untrustworthy. Why would we do that? I have no idea. Jokes say need anti-fogs for your specs now. Are my glasses steaming up? Sorry, I'll give them a wipe. I do need that because when I'm wearing a mask, they do steam up. But you know, gotta take them off at the smooth. And anyway, if you wear glasses, if you come out of like a cold environment and go into a hot environment, they steam up. And if you're in I don't know, Dubai or somewhere and it's really hot outside and you walk into an air-conditioned place, they steam up. It's just one of those things. Guys say I laughed out loud when you said my cunt. Oh, don't. Rewind. Wish I had one of those magic remote controls I could just rewind time. Use it for the important stuff, eh? Damien's saying everyone hit the like, thumbs up button to tickle the YouTube algorithm. So if everybody watching this who's logged in could give me a quick thumbs up now, that would be great because that helps out the YouTube algorithm. So hopefully more people will be able to see the video. Yeah, it does help me out. I don't know how it helps me out, but I know that it helps. I don't know how it works, but I know it works. Maggie says, I'm up for another march. Yes. And you've put a capital on the word march there. So let's have the march in March. Should we do it like March the 21st or something? Like the very first Remainer march was in March 2017. And then there was one in September 2017. I was the MC of the September one. Now 50,000 people that turned up. 50,000 people came to London and I was the MC. I was watching in the summer when Trump had his rally in Kansas City, was it? Oh, in Kansas. And only 6,000 people turned up. And I was like, we got 50,000 to turn up. And then after that, it got taken over by the corporate people, the London people who lived in Millbank Tower that no one was allowed to see or talk to, communicate with. And then we got 1 million people turning up. So it was like, yeah, good, 1 million people. But also it was a little bit like, oh, okay, well, you know, you're welcome. Where do we start the fight to push back against the Trumps and the like of the world? Well, Bob, these videos, us all getting together as it's got to go on now until at least the end of lockdown. And then I'm hoping if I can get a few people to support me on Patreon. My Patreon account is patreon.com/thatgingerscouser. If I can get a few more people to do that, I'm planning to do more videos once lockdown's over, but they'll be during the day because obviously at night, once the kids are in bed, having to do this every night is a bit of a drag. And yeah, my girlfriend isn't too pleased at me. It's going, why did you say you'll do it every night? Why not like every weeknight? Why every night? So what I'll probably do, what I'm thinking of is maybe during the day for an hour at 1 o'clock. So once we stop listening to LBC, I'll do a podcast thing where I'll do it on multiple platforms. So you can just listen to it or you can watch it on Facebook, Twitter, on this. I'll be able to do that all at once, simulcast. And just basically continue the James O'Brien show on LBC because God, it's the only thing now. It's the only thing that I can think of apart from the Mandalorian, where I'm like, I've got to watch this. I've got to listen to this. Yeah, he had on this week these conspiracy theorists because he normally doesn't allow them to get through. They normally don't get past the producer, but he had sort of like a mad half hour where he just spoke to these people and that. They're even crazier than you can possibly imagine. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to sort of have a talk show. I think this is really good where you're writing stuff to me and I'm responding to it. It's kind of working. I found it a bit difficult at first to try and keep up because I've obviously got messages popping up on my screen all the time. But yeah, it's I like it. I like this dialogue, and it doesn't feel like I'm just talking, doing a big monologue. Doing a soliloquy from Shakespeare. Charlie saying do a phone in. Yeah, but Charlie, if I did a phone in, I'll need a producer. I need someone to answer the phone because otherwise I'll go, oh, here's my phone number. And then everyone will call in. I'll be like, hello. And it'll be some lunatic called Keith. Hello, it's Keith here. I think you're a knobhead. I love Corbyn. Yeah. So yeah, I need someone to take the calls and then patch them through to me. So let's start small and build up, I think. Darius saying cool. What did Peter Joy say? I'll count me in on the march. I'll bring my students. Yeah, let's do this. Rejoin March. Rejoin March in March. Hopefully once we've got the vaccine and we can do this. Something else that I want to do, and I want to do this in September, but I couldn't get any backing from anyone, and I've got no money to do it myself. I wanted to get 60,000 flowers, white cut-out flowers. I got 60,000 of them and distribute them all along Whitehall, outside Downing Street, so they come out in a procession, and each flower represents one person who's died from COVID. It would have to be 70,000 now, but as a visual where you'd be able to do it while still socially distancing. You wouldn't be breaking any lockdown rules or anything like that. It's a bit late now because we've gone into winter, and if it rains, it's not going to be as cool. But to see that and then be able to, because this is what got me thinking about this, was the idea that this famous quote by Stalin, which is one death is a tragedy, a million is a statistic. And I think that we've seen this year where people just can't compute that many people dying. And so they just shut down and say, oh yeah, it's just statistics, just statistics. And I wanted some way of basically showing just how many 60 or now 70,000 is. And I think having those white flowers, just flat white flowers, cut out bits of card on the ground coming out of Downing Street along Whitehall would send a real message. And we could get, a little cherry picker so we can go up and get a photograph of all of those flowers up Whitehall. So something like that, just to show the government's absolute catastrophic failure to protect us from this virus, I think could be quite effective. So if anyone's watching this and they're like, yeah, Graham, we could do that, please get in touch, because I'd love to do it. G-Span says, problem with social media, loonies spend more time and energy twitting and gramming than normal people. Yes. Well, that's the thing. Twitter, not that many people use Twitter. I know Trump's got 88 million followers, but the vast majority of them are bots. It's like, or people who don't use it very often. People who use Twitter, they're actually not that many, especially compared with how many people are using Facebook. But then most people use Facebook just to communicate with their families. And it's very much an older generation thing, Facebook. A lot of young people, they don't use it at all. They've got other stuff. Plum Duff says, what button is that? Is it the same as you if you sorry, someone's having a conversation here. Cherry picker, a drone. Yeah, Chubai. No, we can't fly a drone down Whitehall. I got quite progressed in this plan. It wasn't just something that I thought of while I was having my cornflakes one morning. I actually spoke to the police liaison in Westminster to find out what we can and can't do. And it was all to do with social distancing and blah, blah, blah. And they said, I said, would you be able to use a drone to take a photograph with a qualified drone pilot? And he said, no, it's a complete no drone area. There's no permits. You're just not going to get it. You can apply to the Mayor of London, but they'll say no because it's obviously it's a bit close to Parliament and Number 10 and everything. I don't understand that. So cherry picker it is. Or just a big stick. Just get a camera on a big stick, put a dead eye, like telescopic stick, and then go click. Hey, that's good, and take it back down again, which would be good. Jarton says, "Hello, Mr. Hughes. How you doing?" From the bin podcast on Thursdays at 8 o'clock. Which I keep forgetting to plug. If anyone else wants me to plug something, I'm always happy to. I'm a bit like Fuss the Clown in that respect. I'm like, I heartily endorse this product and or service. Twitter is all journos and wannabe journos, so it gets the headlines. Yeah, that's a good point, Ernie. And it is a bit of a, it's a bit of a smug fest, isn't it? But I made this point on Facebook today that they say, oh, you should really get out of your bubble. You should talk to people who don't share the same political opinions as you. Get out your bubble. Get out your bubble. The problem is that if someone starts debating me on Facebook who isn't a friend of mine on a public post that I've put up, if I write something that they like a joke or something that they just find really offensive, they report me. And the way Facebook works at the moment, it seems to be if you get reported for a post, then that's it. You're chucked off for a week. And the reasons are just getting more and more ludicrous as they don't even bother giving a reason. You can't appeal it. You can't talk to anyone. You can't even find out. The last time I got kicked off for a week, I had no idea why I got kicked off. However, I had just been talking to someone who's a mad Trump supporter, and I had said, he hangs out with pedophiles. Here's a picture of him with Jeffrey Epstein. And they'd obviously taken that as like, oh, he's promoting pedophilia or something. Let's chuck him off Facebook for a week. So the chance of getting reported go a lot higher if you're not just chatting to your bubble, right? So you can't have it both ways. You can either have it where you're allowed to say stuff that upsets people, but is within reason, obviously, or you can just stay in your bubble. And to be honest with you, my block list now on Facebook, I never used to block anyone. I used to see it as a mark of shame if I ever got so frustrated with someone that I blocked them. But I don't do it now out of frustration. I do it out of self-preservation because I don't want to be kicked off Facebook, which I was in the week of the bloody US election at the beginning of November. But then again, maybe if I hadn't been kicked off Facebook, I wouldn't have done this. So, you know. Francis Collingwood says, led by Donkey's video was poignant, projected on the House of Parliament. But other than caring folks sharing on Twitter, I'm not sure the impact. It's a problem. Yeah. The bin said, we had Graham on for a chat. What a great bloke he is. They don't know me. Also, buy my book, Man of the World. They put me on the new look Facebook, and I hate it. I hate new things. Guys, you're getting old, mate. Getting old. What's this new thing? I hate it. I hate it. Yeah, well, you know, some of the decisions to make on Facebook. The one that drives me mad, and they've done it on bloody Twitter now, are these fucking stories that come up at the top of your feed. So it's the same bloody picture every time. It's always at the top all day. And you're like, to get rid of it, you've got to go into the actual picture and make it the full size of your phone, and then you can say, I don't want to see this. But you can't just go hold down on the little thumbnail and go, I don't want to see this, especially when it's something horrible and like someone's put it up on their story, like, I don't know, a spider or a picture of Priti Patel. Pete Wellman said, the problem with paper flowers in the win, there could be a lot of hot air coming from number 10. No, I thought that it was going to be card. It was going to be like, card that would actually stand for, but yeah, wind would be a problem. Facebook algorithm sucks. Phil B, I got completely banned for changing my name to Pogloaf. Oh my god. Chubai says, I got kicked off Facebook for pointing out that someone was wrong. Yeah, the way the algorithm works. Graham Beale says, Facebook and Twitter still allow QAnon conspiracies to flourish. They do. They do, and they don't care because it's loads of money for them. I don't understand why Twitter still allows Trump to have an account. After all he's done, all the lies that he's put on, the threats that he's put on, the undermining of democracy, they don't know. They don't seem to realize just how dangerous their platform is, giving him such a megaphone to delude people. And we've gone from way over half of Republicans thinking that the election was fine and that Biden's won. And that number has been coming down and down and down by the day with Trump's bullshit that he's been spouting about electoral fraud. The only fraud around here is you, Mr. Trump. Gpan 6062. 2017, I met 3 slightly inebriated Brexiteers in a pub while on vacation in London. Felt like a bizarro Graham Hughes podcast. Oh, God. Oh, that would be good, though, if you had the sort of like my pubcast and then this anti-pubcast where it's like Brexiteers. Then maybe we could do a crossover, have a big fight. John saying, reported on Facebook post, some hard man on Facebook suggesting they use refugees as builders infill. They decided it was not breaching their rules. Jesus Christ. That's so bad. And it's not just our countries where Facebook and Twitter have been absolutely terrible. Burma is a really good example. A lot of the intolerance towards the Rohingya Muslims who live in mostly North Burma, that was amplified on Facebook. And Facebook, like one of the biggest companies in the fucking world, didn't have the required number of content investigators or whatever to make sure content moderators, to make sure people weren't posting stuff that was literally saying kill all the Rohingya Muslims. They didn't have anyone stopping people from saying that, so they did, and they were like, "Well, we don't speak Burmese. We don't speak Burmese. Oh, what's the problem?" And so it's just mind blowing. Maggie Brinkley on VB on Facebook. I tend to repost from ProE posts just to spread the word from New European and Byline's Times. Yeah, Byline really good. New European's really good as well. I bought the damn thing. Keeps hitting my forehead. What? Ernie says the new Facebook is slower now. This is lots of mid-level workers trying to justify existence for change for change's sake. Yeah. RL saying that you want fraudsters to rule you, get a job and pay some taxes, you waste of space, get a job, scumbag. Oh, I've got a job. I've had a job for 20 years now. No, don't knock it. Let's have a look. Next up, oh wow, this guy's really angry. I like it when angry people turn up. I hope he's still watching now. I hope I'm making him angrier and angrier. Stanley Beckett says Facebook is not a good faith player. Just see their attitude to Steve Bannon's execution of Dr. Fauci video. Yeah, which wasn't taken down. This is a guy saying that they should chop the head off Dr. Fauci. Chop his head off, and they left it on. Plum Duff, I got chucked off Facebook for creating a spoof profile. My hobbies were nude pearl diving in Harlem High Street and tunneling out of high security prisons. I mean, really. Jarton saying your book. Google Eats, your order of 20,000 Trump Lies Volume 1 has shipped. Eddie Byrne saying we need an international charter on human rights. Yeah. Betty Biscuit saying good night. Good night, Betty Biscuits. Big thanks to you and Catherine. Thank you. Sugar Free saying I think Facebook and Twitter are happy to have awful stuff as long as it keeps people returning on their platforms. Yes. Plumdorf, seatbelt Betty. Everyone say good night to Betty. Hi, Betty. David Donald Carey saying read somewhere that Africa country was blocking Facebook and Twitter as it was bad for the nation's health. Yeah, I can see that. Okay. Enjoy the news at 10. Good work. Right, it's past 10 o'clock now, so I'm sorry, 11 o'clock. If everyone could just give me a like, who's still not giving me a like yet, I think nearly everyone has, so it's not such a big deal. Like I say, I'm on Patreon now, so I just want to say big thank you to Betty Biscuit, to Alexander Morgan, to Andrew A.B., and to Darren Christian for being my patrons. I really, really, really appreciate it. And if you want to be a patron as well, it's just a few quid a month. It's not much. I just go to patreon.com/thatgingerscouser, which I'll just put into the live streaming here. Right, there you go. Okay. I'm gonna go off now. So until next time, hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.